woke up, pretty much snow everywhere. Woo! I got up, and literally I was half buried in snow. But the weather was kind of breaking.
Although the skies are clearing, the new snow has transformed the landscape. Navigating the route ahead will be a formidable task.
At that point, there's really no trail. And if there was, it was buried in snow. I've been up there before years ago, and it just did not look familiar.
For Charlie, this trip was to be the test of his ability to survive in the wild. But he now faces a difficult dilemma: to cut his trip short and head back down the mountain, or forge ahead with his original plan.
I made the decision to continue. Get up and over the pass and get down the east side. The weather should be better down there, certainly. So I dug the snow out, packed everything up, headed up to the pass.
Charlie struggles on for 2 hours, but hiking blind across the snowdrifts, he's way out of his depth.
It was just very tough. I realized that I might have made a mistake proceeding. But my rationality tried to overtake me, and I told myself, you'll be okay.
Having committed himself to going forward, Charlie continues on over the hazardous pass. But here, the terrain is perilous, and now the weather takes another dramatic turn for the worse.
It really started to snow, and the wind was just howling. It was just blowing in my face.
Despite the worsening conditions, Charlie is determined to complete his ambitious hike. But as the raging blizzard intensifies, he starts to realize that he's in over his head.
While I was thinking what to do, my face is getting all cold from the wind, and I remember just turning around with the wind at my back. I don't remember tripping. I don't remember flying through the air. I just remember I hit my head. I don't know how far I fell, but it had to be 30, 40 feet at a time. You have no control. You just hope you land and survive.
Charlie helplessly plummets to certain death. But a rock ledge, jutting out of the cliff face, breaks his fall and saves his life. Despite its beauty, the backcountry surrounding Moab can be hostile and dangerous. Just in the last month, 2 men have fallen victim to the deadly terrain, found frozen to death in the bitter desert night. Search and rescue teams are called out regularly to save hikers in distress. But Denell is fearless. 6 times the winner of US Athlete of the Year, she thrives on pushing herself to the limit in the most extreme environments.
I was actually in pretty good physical condition that I usually could push myself right to that limit of pain, but not quite go over it. It actually almost feels good, like you get into the rhythm, get into the flow.
for that.
All of a sudden, the next thing I know, Taz was ahead of me, and my foot slipped out from under me. I almost immediately knew that I was in trouble because I couldn't stop. And I was moving fast at that point. And then the last 20 feet were an overhang. Free fall. I definitely had time to see my life kind of spin through my head and think about maybe I wasn't going to see another day. And then boom. Oh my God, I'm still alive.
He almost got to the top, and I was just really hoping that he'd make it.
I'm fine! I'm almost there, boys!
Ben has made it, 22 meters up a vertical wall of rock. His next handhold will take him over the edge.
I grabbed the rocks. The edge was kind of rotten, the rock crumbly. I know that I'm going to fall, and it's just a wave of fear that rushes over me. I know instantly that I'm not going to make it, that I've failed.
It felt like he made it. You couldn't have been any closer.
Then, disaster strikes.
He grabbed onto that last rock just to pull himself up and out. And when I saw that snap, everything around me, it was silent, it was slow motion.
I've never heard a man scream like that. He knew he was in trouble and he couldn't do anything about it. Something that I'll never forget.
This is a narrow canyon. It's extremely narrow. And it's just like ping pong going back and forth, just all the way down the canyon and just jarring his head back and forth.
I heard him hit both sides of the canyon. Then a large thud when he hit the bottom of the canyon.
Ben! Oh God, he's dead. He's dead. Oh God.
I just didn't think he was going to be alive. I went crazy. And it finally came to my senses. I came to my senses and I said to myself, I gotta go see Ben. It's a lot easier to stem your way down a canyon than to stem your way up a canyon. So I get out of the situation that I was in.
Jay!
I don't think I wanted to face reality of what I was going to see.
Faced with the sight of his stricken friend, Clay slips into shock.
I was elated, and I just got up a pass that I didn't know even if it was going to be possible. No people, no plants, no animals, amazing country. It was just amazing. It just takes your breath away to look at that sort of country.
Nightfall is only a couple of hours away, and temperatures at this altitude can fall dramatically. Matt knows he must start heading for the valley below and find shelter.
And past, what felt like the most dangerous part of the trip.
Heading downhill is a relief, though not without hazards, and Matt picks his route carefully.
There's a rocky gully down below where I'm walking, with just sheer cliff walls and solid upturned rocks along its base.
Flushed with success, Matt feels he deserves a treat and decides to head for a hunter's cabin nearly 4 kilometers away in the valley below. These simple huts are scattered across the wilderness, available for anyone to use.
I'm thinking, yeah, it'd be quite nice to have a night in a hut rather than another night under canvas. I was looking down at the valley floor and really, yeah, not thinking too hard about where I was going.
But these mountains don't forgive the careless.
Found myself sliding down the hillside on my back, tried to dig my feet in, tried to dig my arms in, and think, yeah, we'll stop soon. Realisation dawns that I'm not slowing down, but I'm actually picking up speed. And then I realised that there's a cliff coming up. I'm not going to stop before I go over that.
With nothing to grab onto and no one to help him, Matt's momentum is about to plunge him into the void.
I did not expect to be alive when I hit the bottom.
As Matt plummets through the air, he's certain his life is over.
It felt like a very long time in the air between the top of that cliff and the bottom. In that time, an amazing amount of thoughts go through your head. It felt like an eternity. I don't remember the sensation of the impact. What I do remember most clearly is the thought, I'm still alive. It really was absolute surprise. Nothing felt too bad.
Matt experiences a wave of relief. It seems he's had a miraculous escape. But his adrenaline-soaked body is deceiving him. His wrist is smashed.
Where there used to be a straight wrist, there's now an inch dog's leg, and it doesn't look good at all.
And Matt's moment of horror doesn't end there. His ankle joint is pulverized. His tibia appears to be disconnected from his foot.
All day.
You can see the main bone from my leg trying to come out through the skin on the side of my ankle. It is pretty excruciating pain, the sort that gets into your gut and you actually feel physically sick.
But Matt's broken bones are suddenly the least of his worries. He realizes that he's lying in a fast-growing pool of blood.
There was obviously another serious injury somewhere, and I'm losing a lot of blood. I might not have very long left here.
Matt needs to find out where all the blood is coming from before he loses consciousness.
I start looking around. I find a gash across the back of my thigh.
I was wondering how I was going to get up there. There was no obvious route. I've always been one to sort of enjoy climbing trees and scrambling over boulders and that sort of thing. So it was pretty easy climbing. You know, I didn't have to find any handholds or footholds or anything like that.
But the higher Jordan climbs, the steeper the cliff becomes.
I made my way up quite a treacherous little section. The cliff right there, it's pretty much vertical.
He then hits another problem. To get to the ledge, Jordan has to clamber around a bulge in the rock face. Jordan thinks about giving up the climb. He knows a slip from this height could prove fatal. But he really wants that shot.
I just reached around to sort of shift my way around it. Virtually as soon as I got my fingers into this crack, this rock came off. I had my footing on the ledge, but not my balance for what seemed like an eternity. I watched this rock go down. There was a good 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi before it hit. I looked at it and I thought, oh, that's me next. I knew I couldn't keep my balance and instantly got the feeling you get in your stomach when you're going over the top of a roller coaster. The adrenaline kicked in right away. I knew that this wasn't going to be a little twist your ankle sort of fall. Below was just a bunch of jagged rocks. I knew that I was going to be quite a mess at the bottom. I was thinking I was going to have to be sponged off the cliffs pretty much. When I first started falling, time seemed to slow about as close to stopping as it could. That was sort of the most surreal part of the fall, but it didn't take long for gravity to speed it back up again. Then suddenly I was on the bottom. There I was at the bottom, staring up at the blue sky and where I had just been, up on the ledge there. And I could feel that there'd been a big impact. My head was definitely swimming. It just hurt. But I was surprised I wasn't dead. That was my first thought. I was more happy than scared at that point, just because I realized the fall was over and I still had my brains in my head.
It's a miracle he's alive. But Jordan can't believe he's escaped serious injury.
I knew I couldn't have gotten away from a fall of that height scot-free. The first thing I did was check my head. I figured I must have given it a pretty good whack. Nothing felt broken and everything else was looking pretty good. So I was sort of enjoying these small victories.
He remains cautious.
My next fear was that I'd broken my back somewhere and wouldn't be able to move my legs.
Paralysis is his worst nightmare.
It took me about 5 minutes of laying there to get the courage up to try and wiggle my toes. When I did finally get the courage and they moved, I was ecstatic. Felt that if I was still alive, if I wasn't paralyzed, then anything else would be inconsequential. My next mission, I suppose, was to see sort of what shape I was in beyond those two basics of still being alive and still being able to move my legs.